Day. My name is Catherine Morton. I'm the Communications Director with ABSCF, the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties. We are the union that represents faculty and coaches at the state-owned universities in Pennsylvania. And we've got people still coming in. So first of all, this is recording, as you can probably see from the notification up in the corner of your window. We are recording this to share with the media, to share with the state system, and to share with legislators, and it will be posted on YouTube. So keep that in mind as you comment. This session is not affiliated with the state system, and it does not take the place of any of the sessions that they had last week. This is our third and is going to be our final session. We did have one planned for tomorrow for students, but we've wrapped that into here. And any students who did sign up for yesterday's, I've contacted and we are working to get their comments, but we will just be holding today's session as our final one. We are here today because we at ABSCF believe that everyone deserves to be heard in their entirety, and we want to devote as much time as possible to allow the human beings who will be affected by this plan, who would be affected by this plan, to have their voices heard in public as public comments, not just comments made by members of the public. So as I mentioned, we're going to be recording here. We'll be sharing it. After my introductions, which will be 5 or 6 minutes, we will have some comments by an ABSCF officer, and then we'll launch right into your comments. I've actually already got someone who's volunteered to go first, which is awesome. As you prepare to give your comments, you can go ahead once we get started, raise your hand, or you can contact me in the queue if you would like to do that, if you're having difficulty with the hand raise feature. We are not holding a question and answer session per se, but if you do have a question and you'd like to ask it, we will answer it as briefly as possible as we can. And as always, you'll get an email from me after the event with some links and other wrap-up information that may be helpful to you. If you're a reporter on this session, I don't think I see any in here now, but I know we had some who signed up. If you're a reporter, please wait till the very end, or better yet, please contact me afterward with any questions that you have. I'm available for you all the time to answer your questions about ABSCF. Some recommendations for those of you who are here to comment. First of all, tell your story. I know that we have talking points on our website, we have statistics and data, but the item that we cannot post on our website as reference material for you is your individual story. That's so important, to share the story that only you can tell from your experiences in the classroom, as a faculty member, on the field as a coach, in the classroom as a student, in your communities, etc. So please share your thoughts, share your opinions. If you'd like to share suggestions, you're welcome to do that. The state system has asked for actionable comments throughout the public comment period, but your opinions and thoughts and whatever reactions you have to the plan are valid, and we'd like you to share those. So if you want to share a suggestion, great. If you just have comments, that's also great. If all you have to say is I'm opposed or for the plan, that's also stupendous. Whatever is in your heart is what we would like you to share today. We will also recommend that you follow up with written comments to the state system. The public comment period continues through June 30th. So as I said, we'll share an email afterward with links to all of that. And the state system hearings were last week. I recommend going back to watch those as well. And finally, some protocol and manners. As I mentioned, please add your name and your university affiliation to your display name. And of course, we've all been living on Zoom for 1.5 years, but of course, we always have to say, please stay muted until you're talking, or else I will mute you. Please use your hand raise feature. If you would like to get in the queue, please do. If you know that you're going to want to speak and you're ready, please raise your hand so that I can know who's coming up, and I'll make announcements as to who's coming up and then who's after that. I will call on people to speak, and then you can go ahead and turn on your volume. We would prefer that you deliver your comments with your video on. If you are very uncomfortable doing that, you can leave your camera off, but we'd really like to be able to see you. And if you're really, really nervous about speaking and you'd like to put your comments in the chat, you can also do that. But again, we'd really like to have your comments on video just for easier processing and to see everyone. And our intern, Melissa, is taking some notes about just general topics of what people are speaking about. And so if you don't have your name in your display, or they have a question, they might reach out to you. We're not going to force you to tell us your name if you don't want to, but we would like to know. We would like to know if that's possible. Your comments today will not be timed, but please do, even though we may not use the whole 1.5 hours that we set aside, please do be respectful of everyone's time and be as concise as you're able to do. And we want everyone to have a chance to speak. As I mentioned, you're welcome to repeat a point that someone else said. If someone talked about whatever topic in the plans, you're welcome to talk about it again and give it your spin and share your story with it. And another reminder that I have is that this is not a debate, and we're not responding to each other's comments today. Just keep it focused to your own, and also not responding to events that may have occurred with the plan. We also want to be very careful not to have any personal attacks in this session. So please speak just about the plan, just about what's in that document, not about people, not about events that are related to the plan. And we will have some brief APSCF announcements at the end, but the slots that we've allotted today for people to speak, please comment about the plan, not events, announcements, that sort of thing. So I think that is it. So now Jamie, or I don't know if Chris Allen's here, but President Jamie Martin is here today from APSCF, so I will turn that over to her if she has anything to add.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm so happy to see so many people here. As Catherine mentioned, if you didn't see or didn't participate in the open forums that occurred last week with PASHI, I would encourage you to take a look, take a listen to those as you have time, because what you'll find is that there were a lot of people opposed to that plan. And I think you might be interested in hearing all of the different views. I'd like to just thank Catherine for getting this organized, Melissa for being able to take notes, and I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you and what you think about the plan and document that was released in late April and is scheduled to be voted on in July. So thanks again, and I'm looking forward to hearing your comments. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you. And again, as I said, we have our first speaker already lined up. If you would like to speak next, please raise your hand so that you can get into the queue. So Holly, you are first.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Hopefully my internet cooperates. It can sometimes be a little sporadic. So my name is Holly Canatella. I'm an associate professor at Lock Haven University. Despite regularly teaching full and well-enrolled courses and thus generating revenue for the university, and being the only faculty member in my subject area, I'm one of over 40 threatened with retrenchment next year thanks to this plan, which would replace my face-to-face courses with forced online courses. So despite claims that this plan and retrenchment are not linked, they absolutely are. The board and chancellor claim that the goal of this plan is to expand opportunities for students, but my own situation shows that will not happen. And the plan overall simply does not increase opportunities, as others have pointed out in a variety of settings. Before the plan has even been approved, programs have been gutted and majors closed at Lock Haven. Some incoming students at LHU have received notification that the major they were accepted into no longer exists. They're being turned away. This plan is a PR disaster on a local, state, and national scale. Frankly, I don't see how the system will survive it. As a parent, I would never send my child to a PASHI school after seeing the plan and witnessing the chancellor's behavior during last week's public hearings, as well as seeing the dismantling of programs and retrenchment of faculty, despite widespread opposition from students, alumni, community members, staff, and faculty. As others have repeatedly pointed out in multiple settings, the plan offers no significant savings. It's unclear what the point is. And we should do well to learn from the poor experiences of consolidations in Georgia and must heed the warnings of experts who study higher ed. They've read the plan, they've pointed out innumerable flaws, including a lack of evidence-based decision-making and misrepresentation of data, and warn that it will have disastrous consequences from which our institutions and communities may never recover. So why aren't those in Harrisburg heeding these warnings? For example, Gary Rhodes, director of the Center for the Study of Higher Ed at the University of Arizona, recently noted, and I'm quoting, "The measure of any plan for public higher ed is, does it expand opportunities and reduce costs for students and serve communities?" He notes that this plan reduces opportunity, increases cost to students, and harms communities, especially lower income, and he says that is strike 3. Faculty working conditions are student learning conditions, and our current working conditions are terrible and beyond demoralizing. Faculty and staff mental and physical health have been negatively impacted by LHU's destruction. Our university was doing well under the leadership of former President Pignatello, meeting targets for our previous 5-year sustainability plan. We were growing, building new and positive community relationships, rebuilding good working relations with some administrators, and finally feeling respected and hopeful again. But the system took a wrecking ball to all of that. Most of our administrators have unsurprisingly fled. Faculty don't know what to tell students or prospective students because we have no idea if majors will still exist or what will happen to programs, and we don't know if we'll even be here to teach them thanks to retrenchment threats. Evidence shows that students want options in course modality, that is options or choices. The plan does not do this. It forces students into hybrid models with no choice, and they've been screaming from the rooftops that they don't want that. Anyone who's taught online in the last year at Apache School knows most of our students disliked that modality, and we know why. And I haven't even begun to raise issues around accessibility, which others have already pointed out the plan fails to address adequately. We keep hearing from Harrisburg that over 1,000 faculty worked on this plan, and that's true, but most did so reluctantly and out of fear. I was one, forced to serve on a, I kid you not, triple subgroup while I was on leave and trying to do research. So this has been a hostage situation. Other evidence shows that this plan will have negative impacts on diversity, equity, and inclusion, yet the system touts its commitment to diversity. So how can that be taken seriously when, for example, LHU just retrenched one of only 2 full-time tenured Latina faculty members and is set to retrench the other next year? What message does that send to our minority students? Not a good one. And as retrenchments occur, the university is creating new administrative positions, as we found out just last week at LHU. Funds always appear for new administrative roles, but rarely for teaching and learning. Students, prospective students, and their families see this, and it's driving them away. Last week, Chairwoman Shapiro said the Board of Governors is listening, but listening is not action. The board must vote no if they want our universities to survive. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Who would like to speak next? John, go ahead. John, you need to unmute yourself first.
Right, okay. Now can you
You're
hear me?
good. There you
Okay,
go.
great. Okay, well, my name is John Worsbit, and I taught at IUP's Department of Counseling from 1972 to 2003. What I see taking place today is worrisome. The path that PASHE has elected to take to improve the system is fraught with dangers, some known and others yet to be discovered. Based on comments the state hearings have raised, the current proposed plan of consolidation has the potential to set in motion a destructive downward spiral beyond which system recovery may not be possible. I therefore speak in favor of a no vote or a pause in the process. My concerns with the current consolidation plan are similar to those presented by a majority of stakeholders who have shared their fears regarding the many potential disruptive risks and the plan's implementation implementation is likely to foster. Here are some of the questions and issues raised by fearful stakeholders. Why is it that so many stakeholders, and this is by far the majority, are encouraging the Board of Governors to vote no on this plan? Is a no vote being called for because the proposed plan is fraught with problems and potentially disruptive and damaging risks to our universities, students, and communities? Or is it because the plan has not been clearly and convincingly presented to stakeholders so that they believe in the plan's potential for system improvements and are eager to get behind it? Why is the Chancellor and Board of Governors so eagerly jumped onto a one-pony consolidation plan to the exclusion of sharing additional plans with potential that could produce quality and proven results that do not disrupt the entire system? Why did the Chancellor and his team not focus on university strengths and build on them rather than focus on system deficits and weaknesses? Why have the Chancellor and the Board of Governors sidestepped one of the obvious fixes for improving the system through proper funding? For the past several years, the Commonwealth has failed to support higher education in Pennsylvania. Today, Pennsylvania is ranked near the bottom of the 50 states in their funding of higher ed, while at the same time, Commonwealth legislators are ranked third in the nation for the salaries and benefits they receive. Why is it the Chancellor and Board of Governors failed to do risk assessment studies regarding the potential negative impact of its consolidation plan on all major stakeholders, including local university communities? Why did the Chancellor, his team, and the Board of Governors not devise a plan to individually strengthen all 14 of our great state universities? Perhaps the single most important issue that the statewide hearings of the consolidation plan have revealed is risk. Currently, the Commonwealth is losing students to other states. We are losing talented academic faculty to other universities. By nationally recognized academic programs are being weakened, sidelined, and others removed. Our state university system is losing its competitive edge due to the enactment of questionable system-wide administrative decisions that have been made even prior to the consolidation plan being approved and enacted. University communities also have spoken to the high financial risks their receptive economies are likely to face should the consolidation plan be implemented as designed. In addition, many alumni who support our universities are beginning to question that support in terms of giving their time, talent, and money to a state system of higher ed that is fast in need of life support, according to Chancellor Greenstein. The Chancellor and the Board of Governors have not adequately addressed stakeholder fears, concerns, and potential risks to our system that stakeholders continue to express verbally and in print. Now, here are 3 risk management guidelines that our Chancellor and Board of Governors have failed to take into consideration. The first of which is never risk more than you can afford to lose. Many concerned stakeholders believe we've already breached that guideline. We have lost some of our brightest and most talented faculty and are about to lose more. We have lost distinguished academic programs and are about to lose students who are choosing to go elsewhere based on Chancellor and Board of Governor comments that speak to a system that is in difficulty. The second risk management point that has been violated is this: do not risk a lot for a little. Our state university systems consolidation plan risks a lot with little real positive gain. The potential risks are numerous, to include the risk of losing required program accreditations and a very real threat to losing coveted athletic team sports at the targeted universities. The consolidation plan appears set to do more harm to our system of higher education than good. And third, the third point I'd like to make is consider the odds and your intuition. Many of our stakeholders have already done this, and they see a plan grounded in chance, wishful thinking, and the throw of the dice. Based on the number of stakeholders reporting negative feedback on the plan, how can Chancellor Greenstein build, implement, and manage a successful plan that is grounded in doubt and high risk? Go back to the drawing board. It's not too late. We cannot afford to leave to chance the implementation of a risky consolidation plan fraught with so many unanswered questions and so very few who support a plan rooted in risk. But however, there is a new way forward, and I'd like to make a couple of suggestions before I bring my presentation to a close. We need a vision and a plan that is positive, proactive, and forward-moving, one that addresses the needs and the dreams of all 14 universities. We need to focus on our strengths and all that is right with our system of higher education and what we can do to make it better. We need a plan that generates excitement and desire, one that is outcome-driven. We need a plan that does not dismantle the entire system in order to build on its strengths. So let's begin by focusing on a 5-year plan that involves the implementation of small, positive, and deliberate steps, the first step of which must be to restore the necessary funding to support and strengthen all of our universities. The second step that must be taken is to build teams that create the dream that envisions a university system second to none. Teamwork makes dreams work. In creating the dream, there are 4 key questions that I think our university system needs to answer, and these questions are as follows. What do we want our universities to be? And that becomes the vision or the beginning of the dream. The second question, what do we want our universities to do? The third question, what do we want our universities to have? And the fourth question, what do we want our universities to give? Now, these four questions are all interactive and they work together. And let me briefly state how they do function as a unit. Question one, what do we want our universities to be? Enable stakeholders to create their vision of what a quality university looks like, inside and out. Perhaps among many criteria, they envision a university that is affordable. So what do we want our universities to be? Let's look at affordability as one issue. The second question, what do we want our universities to do? A university must do what it wants to be. Doing leads to being. So if a university wants to be affordable, it must create affordability. What does an affordable university look like? And we can focus on that. The third question relates to the first two. What do we want our universities to have? After a university tackles questions 1 and 2, it will have what it set out to achieve. A university will be able to demonstrate affordability in what it has created. The last question, what do we want our universities to give? A university can only give what it has to give. It can only market that. A university that is affordable will be able to give what it has created to its students, which may be in the form of low tuition, scholarships, reduced meal and housing plans, and so on. The giving piece is the marketing piece, and you can only market what it is that you have. So those four questions working together begin to create the dream. Every stakeholder needs to participate in creating a dream from their perspective. When a university's dream is completed, it will have had the input of students, parents, faculty, administrators, community business leaders, and from local school districts, just to name a few. I'd like to close out my presentation with a story, the Abilene Paradox, a very short story, but a very interesting one. The Abilene Paradox was first introduced by Dr. Jerry B. Harvey, a well-known management expert who shared a life lesson experience from his past. In this story, Harvey relates that his family on a very hot summer day is sitting on the front porch playing checkers when the father-in-law suggests that they all take a ride to Abilene in a car with no air conditioning to have dinner at a local restaurant. There's some silence in the beginning, and then a few family members begin to chime in. Let's go to Abilene. After returning home from a hot and tiring trip, a discussion ensued in which family members, one by one, began to question why they went to Abilene in the first place, when it turns out that no one really wanted to go. The paradox speaks to a breakdown in communication. While the family did not want to go to Abilene, they went because they did not want to raise their personal objections and go against what they thought the group wanted to do. I fear that we are about to take a trip to Abilene with Chancellor Greenstein and the Board of Governors, a trip that not everyone is convinced should be taken. Who will speak out and break the silence by voting no to take a trip that the majority of stakeholders do not want to take? Thank you very much for the opportunity for sharing with you some of my ideas and thoughts.
Thank you, John. There were a few people who joined us and someone who's coming in right now. So just very briefly, some of our protocols for today. Again, please focus on the plan, not people affiliated with the plan or events surrounding the plan. Also, this is just a time for comments, not any sort of announcements. So thank you again to everyone for joining us. And I see that Lisette has her hand raised. If there's anyone else who would like to speak and you're ready to do so after Lisette, please raise your hand or send me a message so you can get in the queue. And Lisette, go ahead.
Thank you. And I apologize, I'm probably going to be in a bit of a violation on some of your words of advice just there, but I'll try and rein it in. Good morning, my name is Lisette Schillig. I have been a proud faculty member of the English department at Lock Haven University for the last 17 years, and I'm an equally proud member of APSCUF. I'm a product of an affordable public higher education. I believe in the opportunities that a state system like ours provides, particularly for the low income, at risk, and first generation college students that my colleagues and I have devoted, and I can't underscore that enough, devoted our professional and our personal lives to serving. And it is why I strongly appeal to the members of the Pennsylvania legislature to oppose this consolidation plan. The chancellor's plan, as it has been conceived, is sketchy at best. At worst, it has utterly failed to listen to the very people our state system is meant to serve and lift up, our current Pennsylvania college students, students who have resoundingly indicated that they do not support this plan. Last week, the Poshe Public Forums were a visual indication to me of the extent to which Pennsylvania students' interests and concerns are being ignored. Students who did testify spoke of how hard it was to get the information on how to even join the forum. And with one exception, nearly all of the people we saw on the Zoom screen were the very people who are helping to orchestrate the consolidation plan. With the exception of Board of Governors Chairwoman Shapira, the people on the call were not the members of the Board of Governors, our intended listeners. Where were the board members? Why were they not visually on this call? Why did they choose not to be visible to hear our testimony? We were assured by Ms. Shapira that the board members were attending by Zoom or were watching you on YouTube. But why were they not present? Were they not interested? Did they not think the students, parents, and faculty members who were addressing them deserved to be seen, to know they were being heard? I hope it does not signal that the members of the board have already made up their minds about this consolidation, that they will follow a plan that is full of holes and is promoted largely by fear-mongering. And to add insult, numerous callers had to politely ask the persons on the Zoom call to please stop looking at their phones or answering emails so that they could actually listen to the comments being made. I appeal this morning not to the Board of Governors, but to the members of the Pennsylvania legislature. I appeal to them to please remember who they promised to serve when they took their oath of office. The people of Pennsylvania, all of them, not simply those who represent corporations or who can fund a future re-election campaign. Please remember the people who you are supposed to represent, to whom you swore an oath to serve, who live in the towns and rural communities that our state system of public higher education serves. People, families, towns and rural communities that will be hugely and adversely impacted economically and culturally if this consolidation goes through. Consolidation, we know, leads us down the path to closures of universities. Please do what is right to serve the people of our Commonwealth. Vote no on this consolidation. Fund public higher education in this state. Fund the dreams and opportunities that our young people and their families deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizette. Next is Susan, and after that is Seth.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak yet again about consolidation. I'm Susan Morris Rutledge, and I'm an associate professor of education at Cal U. I really, really believe that the Board of Governors and everyone involved need to vote no or to delay consolidation. Not only does this consolidation impact student-teacher relationships, networking, and capacity building, but there is a distinct lack of advocacy on the part of the BOG to increase public funding through the state legislature. Cal U is in a small rural community. Cal U is one of our largest employers. Without this university here, many of our students and community members and me would lack necessary resources and opportunities to grow and to develop as human beings. I mean, 10 years ago, you want a personal story, 10 years ago, I moved all the way from Germany to take this job at Cal U. I split my family up, okay? I left my husband behind in Germany to take this job. I and my husband, our family, have not lived together for 10 years because of this job, and because of my husband's job. And so I get really frustrated with the fact that the BOG has never seen me teach. They've never come to my classroom. They've never done anything to really understand what I do, how I do it, and why. And they've never talked to my students. And yet they and the state legislature want to take my job. They want to take my university, and they want to take my community. The dire financial issues facing the PASHE system are in many ways a result of purposeful choice not to fund state education while increasing funding for private education. In addition, consolidation takes opportunities again for social mobility and job growth away from rural areas that need it the most, right? Washington County, in which Cal U is housed, has already a 12% poverty rate. University staff and faculty administrators contribute a lot of economic growth and spending here. You start telling us we don't count, we don't matter, and we don't do this, our jobs go away. There's money not being put into the community. And so that being said, somebody earlier mentioned about other states like Georgia having tried the consolidation route. Well, Alaska did this as well. And guess what? Alaska is no longer doing it because they discovered that it doesn't work. Faculty didn't want the consolidation to occur. Students didn't need the consolidation to occur. And communities in Alaska were incredibly and severely impacted by the economic impact consolidation had brought. So they stopped. Now they're in the process of unconsolidating or deconsolidating, whatever the word is. And so that being said, when we're looking at consolidation, I really truly believe we should not consolidate. For another reason, I am the only ESL faculty, English as a second language faculty at my university. I am already overwhelmed with the number of students and whatnot that I have to teach in all the different programs that I teach in. Consolidation likely will increase my workload, will increase my already full classes. I'm one of the few classes that have 35 to 40 students in them, whether it's face-to-face, hybrid, or fully online. I'm tired and nobody's listening to me and nobody is seeing what I do and the great works that my students are learning. And so again, I strongly believe that we need to either delay the consolidation or vote no against it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Susan. Seth is next, and then Nan.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Seth Kahn from Westchester University, where I'm a professor in the English department. I came to WCU in 2002, fresh out of graduate school with a brand new PhD. And as I've said many times in very public places, I've never thought for 1 second about leaving. I'm a lifer for the system. After a lifetime of almost entirely private education outside of Pennsylvania, I've been evangelical about public higher ed and the importance of our system since I joined it 19 years ago. It took me less than a week to understand what was happening here and what I was committing my career to. I'm also an APSCOF lifer, and most relevant to what I want to say right now, I spent years as the grievance officer for the WCU chapter of APSCOF. So I'm hoping that the Board of Governors members will hear this comment as people with a decision to make, listening to the people who have the most direct stake in the consequences of that decision, the students, staff, faculty, and community members who will have to live with what happens in a way that, with all due respect, the Board of Governors and the Chancellor simply don't. During last week's public hearings, you admitted that there have been communication problems, as if the reason so many people oppose the plan is that we just don't understand it. For the record, I disagree that system leadership has under-communicated or been unclear. There's been lots of communication, and what's been communicated clearly is a plan with gaping holes that won't be filled with a few more weeks of nibbling around the edges of them or talking about them more. To be clear, a bunch of really smart people have contributed to the plan, read the plan, debated the plan, followed the debates about the plans and the explanations in the press and all kinds of media appearances and everywhere else, and understand that this plan isn't good. We need for you to understand that the questions we're raising are not recreational academic nitpicking, but are serious problems the plan will create as a policy that sets mandates and expectations on which students, staff, and faculty well-being hinge. It's not a vision or an ideal or an aspiration. It's policy, and that's why the problems with it are so severe. I spent years working with faculty and management to figure out how to enforce contract language that was negotiated and agreed on by both sides, and even still left serious ambiguities that sometimes required arbitrators and judges to untangle. This plan, to put it mildly, is a lot less clear than our collective bargaining agreement. If you're one of the board members inclined to vote for this because you believe the situation is dire enough that we have to do something, as many of us has pointed out, you could do some of the plan without consolidating and without creating the huge problems and risks that consolidation opens us up to. In the meantime, I implore you in the strongest possible terms to acknowledge that those of us opposing the plan aren't against it because we don't get it. We oppose it because we do get it. At best, as my colleague Michael Malcolm, who pointed out in one of these public hearings, says, you're asking us to place a great deal of trust in you to figure out a lot of details in a tremendous hurry. I'm only asking you to return the courtesy and trust us when we tell you that we think that's not possible. Please listen to the people who have to live with the consequences of your decision when we tell you that this is not good policy and you shouldn't vote for it no matter how dire you think the situation is. One last point, many of us, including myself, have made the request that you vote no or vote to delay implementation. And I want to clarify the request. I'm not asking you to delay implementation. Either vote no because the plan isn't good enough or decide not to vote yet at all because the plan isn't ready. Thank you for listening. I hope you're really listening.
Thank you, Seth. Nan, you're next. And if anyone else is ready to speak, please raise your hand to get in the queue. Nan, go ahead.
Hi. Thank you for organizing these, and I really appreciate everything that everybody has said. My name is Nan Nichols. I'm at Slippery Rock University. Our university is not yet impacted by the decisions that are going on to consolidate. I think that it's really important for us to, acknowledge the elephant in the room. We still have the same great faculty that we've had for 40 years. We still have amazing students that we've had for 40 years. We still live and work in amazing communities that we've lived in. Most of us all of our lives, some of us maybe have come from Germany to live in these communities, but they're great communities. What's the main thing, Board of Governors, that has changed? The main thing that's changed is that the legislature lacks the will, desire to be anything but at the bottom as far as state funding. This plan does not address the fundamental problem. It's treating a symptom. I worked for over 30 years in industry, and if industry treated symptoms instead of problems, those industries would not be in business anymore. And as a matter of fact, there's plenty of businesses that aren't in business anymore because they focused on a symptom and not the problem. This Board of Governors has allowed the legislature, and Board of Governors prior to this one has allowed the legislature to ignore the problem. The problem is that there is not enough funding to take care of students. Take care of students, they will take care of the state. We have invested in this state. We have invested in our communities. This plan, like many others have said, does not include the details that are needed. And again, if you look at the decisions that have been made, you need to have the focus on the problem. It is treating symptoms. And treating symptoms, it's going to be, as I've said in my statement that I wrote to the PASHE is that it's going to be whack-a-mole. There's going to be plenty of other symptoms that are going to crop up because the main problem is not being addressed. Board of Governors, you have to make a decision that is going to allow us to focus on the right problem. This plan does not address the right problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Nan. Ellen, I saw you raise your hand. Was that a speaking hand or just a random gesture?
It was a speaking hand,
Okay,
but
go
I could
ahead.
use like another half second. So if there's somebody else who's ready, that'd be great.
Gayatri, I see that you just raised your hand. Are you ready? And then Ellen can go after that.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. I'm Gayatri Devi. I teach at Lock Haven University. I'm actually going into my 16th. I'm actually going into my 16th year of teaching at Lock Haven University. So I already gave my comments both in the public forum and also posted them on the PASHE site, but I just wanted to add something. And like my colleague Lizette said earlier, I apologize if I've crossed any etiquette lines we have here. I'm very mindful of respecting them. So my apologies, Catherine, if I did. So thank you for the opportunity to speak my comments again today. I'm Gayatri Devi, and I'm going into my 16th year of teaching at Lock Haven University. The last 1.5 years of the pandemic, I taught my classes in real time on Zoom. My ground rule in my Zoom classes was that my students leave their video on and the audio off. My students understood when I explained to them that it was deeply distressing to speak to a black blank screen filled with windows, where for all practical purposes, I taught my classes to the outer space. My students understood immediately, and for the duration of my classes, they left their videos on while they ate their breakfast or let the cat out. It was fine with me. So I wish to record my deep disappointment that with the exception of Chairwoman Shapira, not one of the 20 board members of the state system made their faces visible during the PASHE public hearing last week. It would have been a demonstrable act of caring for the board members to be present with their faces, cats, dogs, and other accessories of our daily lives. It would have been a tremendous act of caring if they had attended the meeting on Zoom with all of us. I already shared my comments about the consolidation plan earlier. Today, I wish to document my deep skepticism at the physical absence of the Board of Governors during these hearings. I don't honestly know if they have heard or seen us or our students. I do not know if our appeals reach them in their urgency. I appeal to the board once again respectfully to understand our sincere repudiation of this consolidation plan and our reasons for the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Gayatri. Ellen, you're next.
Okay, and I think I'm ready this time. So thank you, Catherine and APSCA, for providing this this opportunity. I think it's an important opportunity for us. So I'm Ellen Foster. I'm a professor of English at Clarion University, and I am going into, I believe, my 16th year. And my background on this is that I have been retrenched. That was in 2013, and I've been reinstated to the university. So I have seen over the years what I would call a lot of bad decision-making in PASHE and at my university. And often these were decisions that were bad for students and bad for the university in the long run. Decisions that were made despite a whole lot of advice and pushback. And I don't mean just from faculty and students, but even from within the administrations. And our current situation strikes me as another one of those situations. A decision has been made and it's going to go forward despite the evidence against it, because I guess it's because the decision has been made and put into motion, not because it's a good idea or because it's going to benefit students and communities in the long term. As the statements of so many of my colleagues, our students and community members have made clear, consolidation threatens our students' opportunities, and it poses very real dangers to our local communities, to business owners, landlords, community members, the very fabric of those communities. And I would say that that's for the people who have lived for generations in that town, as well as the people who come from all corners of the world into those communities. And so, can we afford to gut the economic and cultural life of 6 of our towns? Can we afford to limit our students' futures? Are these the right things to do? The chancellor has asked for actionable suggestions, and so here are mine. The Board of Governors, legislators, the governor, they need to stop these plans. As Seth said, even pause them, but instead think about implementing measures that will actually save money. Maybe consolidating back office operations, setting up some form of course sharing, but pay attention to the several economic studies that clearly show that these plans will not save money and will instead cost quite a lot, and actually already have. Those who can must stop rushing a process that's doing active harm to our students, our communities, our local businesses, and their futures. But most of all, we need to work harder for appropriate funding for our system. We need to call out legislators who are alumni, who are parents of students at PASSHE, who serve on our Council of Trustees, and essentially ask them if this, if their commitments or their engagements with the universities are worth funding, are worth doing. So for decades now, our students have been carrying more than their fair share of a public education in Pennsylvania. I think the ratio is now that students bear 75% roughly of the cost, while the state provides about 25%. And in the 80s, I believe it was the other way around. Most of my students are full-time students who also work full-time outside of their coursework, or they work multiple part-time jobs, and that's just to be able to stay in school. This is how committed they are to their education. And keep in mind, their coursework is also work. A full-time college schedule is a full-time job. So our students are often working 2 or more full-time jobs so that they can try to reach their goals. And I know we've talked a lot about this over the years, but where's the public support of our students? Why are legislators and voters not thinking, thank goodness our students want to be teachers. Thank goodness our students want to be accountants. They want to be community leaders. They want to be scientists, et cetera, et cetera. Why are we not supporting them? And why are we not supporting our community's futures? The bottom line is that Pennsylvania is failing its students and it's failing its communities, and therefore it's failing our futures. And so I ask those who can, the chancellor, the Board of Governors, the governor, legislators, to please oppose this plan and instead invest in real dollars. Invest in our students and in our communities. And again, thank you for this opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Ella. Next up is Martha and then Roger.
Hey, thanks, Catherine, for the opportunity to speak. I did make a comment during the previous sessions last week. I did attend one and I made a comment, and I want to reiterate here from a different angle the same comment that I made. I taught in Edinburgh for 13 years before I was retrenched from that university. And then fortunately for me, I got to be in Westchester. Not very many of retrenchees during that time got to schools like Westchester. And so some left the system altogether. Now, I cannot use your time to tell you what it is like to be retrenched. But when we think about what is happening in our country right now, particularly the devastation that has been caused by COVID, I find it really disappointing that anybody would even think of divesting another person of their job just because they can do it. And so what I'm saying is that the consolidation plan is unfair, and because it is discriminatory. And it is discriminatory on 3 levels. One, it discriminates against poor students. Now, we have all said it, that, oh, it doesn't serve our students well, students don't support it. That is good. But in this country and in Pennsylvania in particular, when we talk of poverty, then we are saying that poverty has color. And if it does have color, then we know the people that are going to be affected. Already, we are not that many in the system. So if this is going to affect more poor students, then what is this whole noise we make time and again about inclusion? So the people that are pushing for this plan ought to understand that this plan is not just going to affect anybody, but it's going to affect poor Black, brown students more than it would any other person. Second, it does affect faculty who would be retrenched because their programs are going to be closed. Well, how does that benefit anybody in the state other than the people that are pushing for this plan? And then the third one, people have said it over and over and over, the communities in which our universities are located, they depend economically, socially, culturally on these universities. So if for one reason or the other, the universities are affected negatively, all these things are going to go away. Then what is left? So it is not just a matter of us making noise that, oh, we don't want the plan is not good. And we are making good reasons. We have good reasons why we think it is bad. And the people that are going to vote on it must pay attention to what we are saying. It does appear to me that they've already made up their minds, but nothing stops them from unmaking their minds. That is the true mark of character, that you decided on something and then sat back, thought about it, and then realized that this thing that I'm going to do doesn't serve the best interest of a large constituency of people. But they are set on doing this. So as we give our speeches and as we make all these statements and draw attention to what is right and what is not right, what happens when it is done? That is my worry. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Next is Roger and then Nicholas.
Thank you, Catherine, and others for being here, giving us this opportunity. My name is Roger Wilbert, and I received a bachelor's in mathematics from Clarion University, my master's in math education from Millersville University, and I'm currently an associate professor at Edinburgh. I believe that the education experiences that I received through the state system prepare me well for a very productive and successful life. Now, because of my many years as either a student or professor within the state system, I believe that I know the type of students who are attracted to our schools because I know myself. I connect with our students. I've been there. I am there. The current plan does not represent students like me. And the success for future state system graduates is in question. This outrages me as a taxpayer and as an educator. The Western Plan calls for a robust student recruitment process with an expanding array of high schools, community colleges, and other education providers, including robust dual enrollment and transfer articulation agreements and associated student supports. Now, a robust recruitment program for fall 2022 would need to start in fall 2021. That's just a few months away. But we really don't have a clear idea what we are offering. Again, as a taxpayer, this upsets me. Now, I want to speak directly to the members of the Board of Governors. Before you vote, ask yourself, are you planning to spend a robust amount of money for recruitment on a product that we can't deliver? How are the consolidated universities going to recruit students when we, the faculty, don't have a clear idea about the curriculum and programs we offer? After all, we're the ones who do a lot of the recruiting. What message will the state system give the public and taxpayers when we fall short of what we say we'll give versus what we're actually able to provide because we're just not prepared? Now, I also believe that for any institution to survive, whether a church, a business, a university, that it needs to keep up with the changing times, but only when that time is right. That time is not right. It is not right now. Simply put, we need more time and we need to reconsider this plan. And I ask the Board of Governors to oppose this plan, or at the very least, to delay it. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Roger. I see next Nicholas's hand, and then after that, Craig Young.
No. Hello, everyone. So if you have heard me before in a public comment session, you may have seen the first one. I was outside cutting grass. I am again. My name is Nick Marcel. I'm a current grad student at West Chester University and also an alum as an undergrad. And I want to say to the Board of Governors that they should vote no on this plan. It is not well thought out. I think Seth Kahn put it perfectly in saying there are one of two options, in that this plan is very thoughtful and meticulous in what they've done and put together, or that it is rushed because of the dire situation. I don't think either one, can be true, or, that both can be true at the same time. As well, I just want to ask the Board of Governors, I'm an actual student, and I want to ask you, are you listening to me? Are you listening to these faculty that are speaking? I want to ask you that sincerely. Are you? And if so, what are the responses that you personally have? Not the Chancellor's office. What are the responses that you personally have to these voices that are against this plan? Do you have an answer? I heard the chairwoman, Cindy Shapira, say that she needs to better communicate. Same thing with the Chancellor. And I asked, what is that? We all know what's in the plan. We all understand how devastating it's going to be to students like myself, who's working multiple jobs, to faculty, to anyone out there in these rural communities. It's going to be devastating. You need to rethink what this actually is going to be as a plan. It's a joke. It's a scam. It is not a plan. A lot of the things, I have read this like 500-page document. A lot of the things are just repeated words just to make it look like there's something put together from what it seems. And I'm sure plenty of people have worked tirelessly on this plan. I understand that. But I think for a document of what it is, it needs to be better thought out. If you actually want to have any sort of plan, the Board of Governors needs to vote no. And if you actually want to listen to us, contact us. I will gladly, to any Board of Governors, I will gladly just organize a group of students and faculty to have a conversation with you. I've done that with one of the Board of Governors. I will gladly do it with another. Because if you actually want to listen to the voices, other than in this Zoom format where it's not that engaging and you just listen to us after we've spoken and you can't ask us any questions, then please contact some people. Contact Catherine Morton of ABSCO. I'm sure she'd be glad to have people come together who are faculty to talk to some of the Board of Governors members. I know that I'll be glad to organize some faculty and students, because if you actually care about what these people are saying, then you need to listen to us. Everyone, except for one person in the public comment session, said that they are against this plan. So I asked these Board of Governors, why are any of you for it? And I really hope if you're thinking of voting for it as a Board of Governor, I want to see a well-written document to explain why you think this is a good plan. It's a joke of a plan. It does not do a single thing of the actual problems facing our students, our faculty, our communities, us as a system. Go to the state legislature, go to the governor. That's where the pressure needs to be put. We need more funding. We don't need these workarounds that don't provide any real savings or anything. Do something. And if there are any state legislators, listening in on these, I highly suggest you put out a statement against this plan. I've already seen Representative Conklin do that. I've seen State Senator Brewster do that. Do the same. I am a grad student at West Chester. I hope my voice is being listened to. I hope these faculty's voices are being listened to. and that you actually understand the pain that this plan is going to hurt, the pain that this is going to inflict on so many people. I'm going back to my job because I have to, because of the state of public higher education in PA. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Craig, you're next. And if anyone else is interested in speaking, you can go ahead and raise your hand now to be placed in the queue.
Thanks, Catherine. Good morning, folks. My name is Craig Young. I am a professor of teaching and learning at Bloomsburg University, and I am currently looking forward to my 13th year with the state system. Sorry, I've got notes, but I get nervous, so I apologize. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Let's try and stop shaking. The reason I have this nervousness is it's also tempered with a lot of anxiety, because even as a tenured full professor at one of the hubs, there's still a lot of fear that's being instilled through this process and through this plan. One major concern for me lies in the purpose for the consolidation. If the proposed plan, as has been stated, does not lead to increased opportunities and lower costs for students, as well as positive impacts for the surrounding communities, what is its purpose? And if the board would like actionable items, I have a few throughout my comments. One actionable item, I would like to see the board require clear explanations and justifications that address the questions of increased opportunities, lower costs for students, and positive impacts for surrounding communities before voting for any plan. Second, the plan does not seem to be complete. As I read it, I note many programs marked with an asterisk indicating they, quote, require further discussion, end quote. I don't feel that it's appropriate for the board to vote on implementing a program or a plan that is not finalized. As an actionable item, I would like to see the board require that all discussions on all programs be completed before voting on any plan. Third, I have a very real concern that this consolidation plan is being presented as the only way forward. I truly cannot describe my shock when I heard the chancellor state that if this plan isn't approved, the fallback position is to dissolve the system. Now, I'm a career public school teacher. I've got 3 degrees and many years as a classroom teacher, and I do not accept that level of if-then thinking. My training and the training I provide for my students is to always have a plan, and then have a plan B, and then have a plan C, and then have a plan D, and so on and so on. So as an actionable item, I would like to see the board require to see other options or a menu of possibilities before voting on any plan. And finally, I want to comment on the fact that there is a very real negative impact to the morale and mental health of the individuals involved in this process and with this plan. And staff and faculty have faced the loss of their jobs or the real possibility of the end of their careers. Students have been confused about their futures, and some have decided that the instability of this plan is not worth their staying. Community members face the real possibility that their towns will be ignored or simply left behind. This level of fear and anxiety makes learning, the real reason we're here, very difficult, if not impossible. So as an actionable item, I would like to see the board listen to, really listen to, and then address the concerns presented by the stakeholders before voting on any plan. I want to echo what my colleagues have stated here. We're not opposed to this plan because we don't understand it. We're not opposed to this plan because we haven't studied it. We're opposed to this plan because we know that it is not the plan that our system, and our system means to me, the students and the staff and the faculty that make up our system. This is not the plan that we need. I'm not saying we won't have a plan or we don't need a plan, but the plan that we need is not this one. So before you vote, really listen to everything that everyone said. And in fairness, address them, answer our questions, tell us your reasoning, and don't vote for this plan. Don't vote on any plan until you've done what we've done here. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. I don't see any other hands. Are there others who would like to speak today? I see Jason, you're waving your real hand. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, can you hear me? Yes, I have my real hand because I just not that familiar with Zoom yet, and I know there's somewhere I can click on something, but thank you. I try to wait until last strategically, so I wouldn't have to repeat things that many other people are going to say. Okay, so I'm Jason Hedlund. I'm professor of finance at Clarion University. I'm also the chair of the finance department in law, accounting, and real estate. So as a finance, I'll let it myself because I want to, part of the things I'm going to talk about relate to me in the sense that I'm one of those at a high school. I joined the Army because I didn't have money for college. And then after that, I ended up in Texas. And well, I think they still are, but at the time they were pretty cheap, the public universities. You may or may not like Texas, but that one, they're doing it right. If I would have landed in another state with higher tuition costs, my story could have been different. So, and as a finance person, then I might just have no choice but to talk about a little bit about that. Now, first, I'm going to start from the top here because yes, we are a public service and I can appreciate the budget constraints and all that stuff. And that the first question we always have to answer is, do we have a public to serve? Which then the response is lower enrollment rates. And I get that. And I'm sure that declining population levels and less high school graduates and all that stuff has to part of play to it. But I question how much of it has to do with tuition cost, which brings me to echo a little bit of what Craig Young just said about analyzing other options. There's this thing we call in finance real option analysis. I'm not sure I saw in there, and anybody correct me if I'm wrong, where there was a real analysis that if we drop tuition, how much enrollment will go up. That is a law of supply and demand. You drop price, numbers go up. So I'm not sure there was a real analysis of that compared to our current option. I'm not against that we could lower costs by doing some shared resources, but that's another option. Shared resources versus full integration. I'm not sure that was a full analysis was done on that. After analysis, if integration still comes up on top, well, we just have to work around that one way or another. But I believe that we are rushing it. So while I'm not saying let's not do this, I'm in favor of delaying it while these real option analysis are really analyzed, especially that price elasticity is what we call it, that the enrollment could go up, we drop price. And are we really serving the public we're supposed to be serving by having a higher cost? You also want to then echo Martha, I'm going to say Dunker, I hope I pronounced that right, the public school is offering is not for the higher end, economically speaking. We're talking about the people with lower access, whether it's financially or by other means. So does it target some minority groups? Yes, but I believe it targets everybody that doesn't have money. I'm just going to say it like that. It's the easiest way to explain it. So it is targeting a specific demographic that might go down to spiral. And then we have the quality issue. I believe that integration may cost us in quality of our service in many ways to the student. Which then brings the question, are we given equal access to quality education? Now, sure, we're not Harvard, I get it, but it doesn't mean that we have to go below a certain level in quality to serve the public, which brings us to that, sure, funding has been an issue. And I believe that things like quality and access through lower tuition costs will address a lot of those things. But back again, the real options analysis, I believe, has not been done exhaustively in that sense. While there's a lot of other financial things I would talk about, but I think that's like the starting point. And I believe Craig Young, did I say Corey earlier? I'm sorry, Craig. Craig Young did address a point that we have not done a real options analysis on this, or at least in depth to go that way. And last but not least, Susan, when I was in the Army, I lived in Mannheim, Germany for 2 years. just wanted to share that with you. Not part of the discussion, but we're with you. Okay, thank you. If anybody would like to ever ask me more about details like that, I'd be more than happy to share about what I mean by all those price elasticity and all those other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Anyone else have any comments to share today? It is 10:12, so I'm not gonna push for people to speak, but Lori, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm worried about the future. If this goes through and they're set up, then what they can do is declare, they can declare that 2 of the universities in a grouping are failing and then say, we'll just transfer them over. And so I guess I'm worried that once they implement this, that this is simply a stepping stone to removing institutions from PASHE entirely. That I guess that's what I'm scared about, that this is simply a step because they face too much resistance to just going out and shutting down universities. So this is simply a stepping stone to doing that. And then they'll label the universities as failing again, and then say, we're just going to go ahead and close them. And so I worry that it's simply a step towards a larger goal of shutting down universities.
Thank you, Lori. Anyone else? If anyone has a desire to speak as I make my closing announcements, just go ahead and raise your hand, but I'll start in to say that we, of course, I will be sending out an email afterward with some links and recommendations as far as what you can do next. The public comment period continues through June 30th. So of course, we encourage everyone, if you haven't already, and even if you have and you have additional thoughts, to submit your written comments to the state system by their website. And this is as I mentioned before, this is the final APSCF recording session. We'll be posting this onto our website at apscf.org/comments. It'll also be on our YouTube channel. And I've been posting these with the end of each session, sharing the link with the state system. And we will be, I also email it to their email address. So thank you again to everyone for coming and sharing your comments. Jamie, do you have anything to add?
Not much, Catherine. Again, just to echo Catherine's thanks to all of you. I do hope that the Board of Governors, that they are listening. It was clear from today's conversation and the ones in the past that there's a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of concerns that have been voiced. And really, I think the overarching theme that I've heard is a need to slow down. And I think the final thing I'll say is that there is an important group that we really haven't heard from yet, and those are our students. They haven't been afforded the opportunity to have this kind of a forum at a time of the academic year when it's best for them. And one benefit of slowing this down would be giving the students an opportunity while they're back on campus in the fall to have their questions answered, to voice their views and perspectives, and have that heard by the Board of Governors prior to the July vote. So again, thank you for the thoughtful comments. Clearly a lot of thinking went into those, a lot of planning went into those, and certainly some actionable options voiced today. So thank you all. And again, thanks to Catherine and the others on our staff that actually made these forums possible. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It's such an honor to work for APSCF and to hear from all of you. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for taking the time today.